This is the story of the one. As a custodial supervisor at a high school, he knows that during cold and flu season, germs spread fast. It's why he partners with Grainger to stay fully stocked on the products and supplies he needs, from tissues to disinfectants to floor scrubbers. All so that he can help students, staff, and teachers stay healthy and focused. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Pro Savings Days are back at Lowe's. My Lowe's Pro Rewards members save even more with limited-time doorbuster deals. Save $5 on 24-count Contractor's Choice 42-gallon trash bags, now just $14.78. Plus, get your choice select DeWalt Elite Series saw blades for $9.98. Not a Pro Rewards member? Join for free today at Lowe's. Valid through 9/17. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. Loyalty program subject to terms and conditions. See Lowes.com/terms for details. Subject to change.
This is the story of the one. As a custodial supervisor at a high school, he knows that during cold and flu season, germs spread fast. It's why he partners with Grainger to stay fully stocked on the products and supplies he needs, from tissues to disinfectants to floor scrubbers. All so that he can help students, staff, and teachers stay healthy and focused. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
On December 1st, 2000, a 23-year-old senior was on track to graduate from college. He left home that morning to head to class, but never made it. His car was found 2 hours away, crudely parked on a private road. Despite years of extensive searches, no trace of the 23-year-old college student was ever found. Welcome to Without a Trace. I'm your host, Jalyn. Every file holds a mystery. Every story deserves to be heard. This is Matthew's story. Matthew Pendergrast was born on January 4th, 1977, to Jeff and Mary Ellen Pendergrast. Matthew was born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia, alongside his younger sister, Diana. Matthew graduated from Westminster School, a prestigious private school in the upscale Buckhead neighborhood. He was a popular student with many friends, the kind of person that everyone liked. He was a member of the school's cross-country and soccer teams and played drums in the school band. After graduating from high school, Matthew enrolled in Rhodes College, a small liberal arts college in Memphis, Tennessee. While there, Matthew continued making friends easily, joining the Kappa Sigma fraternity. Initially, he intended to go to medical school, but he fell in love with the Spanish language after a trip to Mexico, and he decided to change his major. Matthew had a passion for helping kids in underdeveloped countries. He spent the past 2 summers doing volunteer work at an orphanage in the Dominican Republic, and he had returned a few months ago after spending a year studying abroad in Granada, Spain. He was hoping to work with a nonprofit group after graduating, and he had plans to go on a trip to the Caribbean shortly after his graduation. Matthew was in a long-distance relationship with a woman he had met when he was in the Dominican Republic. His sister, Diana, thought the couple might have had some difficulty dealing with the distance, but they emailed each other frequently and seemed committed to making it work. Matthew didn't have any immediate plans to return to the Dominican Republic. Instead, he had plans to move in with one of his friends in Atlanta after his graduation. 2 weeks before his college graduation, Matthew left his apartment around 7:30 a.m. on Friday, December 1st, 2000. He climbed into his Toyota 4Runner and headed in the direction of his early morning Spanish class. Class was held just 4 blocks away from his apartment, but he never arrived that morning. Later that morning, he called one of his friends from his hometown and left a voicemail for him. This was the last time anyone ever heard from Matthew. Around 2 p.m. that afternoon, Matthew's vehicle was located on a private dirt road in Lonoke County, Arkansas, nearly 2 hours away from Memphis. The road is located off Interstate 40 and was used by local hunters to access the Bayou Mito swamp area. A group of duck hunters came upon the car, partially blocking the road. The duck hunters could see that the keys to the 4Runner were in its ignition, and they wanted to move it so it wasn't blocking the road. After going through the glove compartment, they found a receipt for a recent oil change on the vehicle. It had Matthew's name and home phone number on it. The hunters called Matthew's parents' house and asked to speak with him, explaining why they were calling. Jeff and Mary Ellen were unaware of any reason their son would be in Lonoke County. As far as they knew, he didn't have any friends in that area. They immediately called police and reported their son missing. The Lonoke County Sheriff's Office used a helicopter to search the area surrounding where Matthew's car had been found. They spotted his clothing in a swampy area not far from where the car was parked. His clothes were in a pile containing his sweatshirt, pants, socks, and underwear. It appeared as Matthew had stood right there and undressed as the clothing was neatly folded and placed in a pile on the wet ground. Matthew's wallet, containing $46 in cash and several credit cards, was found in the pocket of his pants. There were no signs of a struggle in or around Matthew's vehicle. It appeared he had voluntarily driven to the area. Investigators began speculating that Matthew was the one who drove the 4Runner to Arkansas based on the identification items they found. After finding Matthew's clothes, investigators spent 2 days scouring the area for any sign of the missing student. They combed through hundreds of acres, including swampland, ponds, and flooded rice fields. Searchers used tracking dogs, helicopters with night vision equipment, and boats equipped with sonar. Despite their efforts, they found nothing to indicate Matthew was in the area. Since Matthew was living in Memphis, the Memphis Police Department also opened a missing person investigation. The Memphis police searched his apartment but found nothing to indicate that he planned to skip class or go on any kind of trip. They began interviewing Matthew's relatives, friends, and classmates. Geo Presley Brooks, one of Matthew's friends from Atlanta, was one of the last people to speak with Matthew before he disappeared. Matthew had called him on Thursday night, sounding very upbeat at the time. The two chatted about Matthew's upcoming senior paper presentation. Matthew tried reaching out to Geo again on Friday morning, but Geo missed his call. Matthew left him a voicemail that just said he would be spending the weekend studying. The physical search in Arkansas was called off Monday night. Detectives had been unable to find any clues to Matthew's whereabouts, but were beginning to believe he was no longer in Arkansas. A week later, on Friday, the investigators returned to the Arkansas swampland where Matthew's 4Runner had been found. Although the area had already been extensively searched, the water levels had receded and detectives wanted to make sure that nothing had been missed. Divers from the Arkansas Fish and Game Commission were in the process of combing through the bayou while canine teams scoured the fields and woods surrounding the wetland. While the search teams were out looking for Matthew, detectives were going through all of his belongings he left in the vehicle, hoping that something would provide a clue as to what happened to him. Detectives were especially interested in Matthew's journal, which was found in the backpack he left on the passenger seat of the vehicle. The journal contained a lot of poetry about things like nature and life, but it was an entry called The Silver Elves that intrigued investigators the most. They found a website that described the concept of silver elves as a way of obtaining immortality by walking into the water and becoming one with nature again. Carol Pate, a psychic from Little Rock, Arkansas, told police that she believed Matthew was trying to be reborn as a silver elf, stating, "I believe he felt he was in a battle for his soul, that he was battling demons, and he lost." Detectives, however, found nothing to indicate Matthew was familiar with the website about the Silver Elves, and there was nothing to suggest he was on a quest to obtain immortality. His use of the term Silver Elves in his journal may have been entirely coincidental and unrelated to the website. Matthew had written dozens of poems and only one referenced Silver Elves, and none of his poetry suggested he was suicidal. The Arkansas State Police joined the search for Matthew, assisting the Lonoke County Sheriff's Office as they continued to comb through the area where the 4Runner had been found. Investigators admitted they were baffled by Matthew's disappearance. Several of Matthew's friends traveled to Arkansas and waited anxiously for any word from the search teams as they combed through the area that Friday, exactly 1 week after Matthew went missing. By Monday night, the search teams decided to suspend the search once again. They had scoured the area without finding any trace of Matthew and weren't sure if he was in the area or not. State wildlife officers would continue to survey the bayou by boat a couple of times a week to see if any additional evidence surfaced. These searches would not yield any new information. On December 19, 2000, Matthew's parents announced that they were offering a $5,000 reward for information leading to their son's location. His parents wanted nothing more than to have their son home for Christmas. They believed someone knew something that would help them find their son, and they were hopeful the cash reward would help that person to come forward with that information. Matthew had last visited his parents over the Thanksgiving holiday, and he planned to return to Atlanta after his finals were finished just a short few weeks later. Weeks went by without any progress on the case. On January 25, 2001, Lonoke County officers conducted another search of the area surrounding where Matthew's vehicle had been found. While the search team scoured the fields and waterways for any sign of the missing student, a helicopter surveyed the area from above. They found nothing. The next day, Matthew's family announced that they were doubling the amount of reward they were offering for information. They were willing to pay $10,000 to anyone who could tell them where their son was. Sadly, investigators received few tips about Matthew's case, and it slowly started to go cold. That summer, in June of 2001, investigators conducted several more physical searches for Matthew. They expanded their search area deeper into the Bayou Mito, using boats and a helicopter to cover more ground. This new search took them much further away from the area where Matthew had left his vehicle, but detectives said it was conceivable that he could have made it that far, so they wanted to ensure the area was thoroughly searched. They didn't find any clues to Matthew's whereabouts. By July 2001, Matthew had been missing for 7 months, and his parents had no idea if he was alive or dead. Every night, they made sure to light a candle and place it in their front window, a symbolic gesture to help guide Matthew home. Mary Ellen was still baffled by the situation and had no idea how or why her son had ended up in Arkansas on a day he was supposed to be in class. Years went by, and both the detectives and Matthew's loved ones came to the conclusion that he was most likely dead, though they admit they have no idea what happened to Matthew on December 1st, 2000. The way Matthew's clothing was found led his parents to believe he wasn't the person who put the items there. Mary Ellen noted, "Our son was not the neatest person in the world. He would not have folded up his clothes and left them in a stack." Some investigators agree the scene was staged, but they are baffled as to who staged it. Matthew was not a likely candidate for suicide. He had been so excited about his future, had been doing well in all of his classes, and was on track to graduate just 2 weeks before he vanished. Detectives and Matthew's loved ones believe that Matthew may have been carjacked in Memphis after he left his apartment to head to class. A possible break in the case came in 2013 when a letter sent to the Jacksonville Police Department listed a group of people allegedly involved in a missing person case, possibly believed to be Matthew's. Lonoke County Sheriff's investigators worked with the Jacksonville Police Department to investigate the details contained in the letter. Numerous interviews were conducted, but many of the individuals allegedly involved had passed away. Just like that, Matthew's case once again went cold. Thank you for listening to Without a Trace. I hope you enjoyed our deep dive into Matthew's disappearance. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe and follow Without a Trace on social media. And join me next week as I dive into another case.